Hello, and thank you for tuning in to my presentation. So today I will be discussing the impacts of an unhealthy diet in youth that can predict future criminal behavior. So basically, the reason why I decided to do this particular presentation was because I feel like diet is something that is extremely important in the United States today, and I feel that a lot of youth are under a lot of scrutiny about childhood obesity and a lot of adults about obesity. I feel like it's in the news, it's on TV. Everyone is talking about how you can be basically slimmer or healthier rather. And so I decided to pinpoint how it affects the youth because typically that's where it starts. It starts in eating habits that are affected by cultural differences, that are affected by socioeconomic differences, and it's more important than eating a hot dog and deciding to rob a store. It's about how nutrient deficiency and mineral deficiencies can affect children long term in terms of their future behavior as adults. So for the first portion that I decided to pull from, um, it is important to note that the lack of nutrition in children's diets and youth diets can affect their upbringing and how they are in terms of social settings and how they are in academic settings. So just pulling some things from this quote that I have right here. In the 6 to 11-year-old cohort, they were lower math scores, repeating grade levels, struggling and making connections with friends and other children. They had social difficulties. They were most likely to be suspended from school. So, just from pulling those things from this quote right here, I'm already noticing that children are already facing significant difficulties due to food insecurity, and mostly due from the fact that if they're having food insecurity and are in food deserts, then they're less likely to have vegetables and healthy options for them to eat that will be able to strengthen their ability to be successful. So they're already knocked back a few steps than other children um, who don't have these issues, children who do have food security, who do have adequate access to food that would help them to succeed. And I feel like this age, 6 to 11 year olds, this is a very important age for entering into school, entering into elementary school, going into middle school, things that are especially important for their developmental growth. Um, this kind of goes into what I was just talking about children who are lacking these minerals, they're most likely to misbehave until they are treated. A lot of people do not know that changing a diet at this age can affect the child significantly, giving the child more mineral minerals and nutrients can allow the child to be able to stand a chance against things that they might not be able to combat if they don't have these sort of minerals. So a couple things that I want to pull from this quote. Um, Stuffy nose, dark circles, uncooperativeness, antisocial behavior. They're described as character problems because this quote directly would say that they might be diagnosed with having allergies to some of these foods that they're eating. Foods that are high in fat and that are high in things that are would negatively affect the child can sometimes they can be allergic to those things, which can cause them to act out because of the allergies to these things. And it has been shown, like it says in this quote, that it has been dramatic improvement in schoolwork and emotional behavior after they were treated. So it could show up physically, but it also could show up mentally and emotionally. But I think that it is something that is not necessarily shown in classrooms today. That if someone is being uncooperative, it could very well be that they have um, an allergy to a food that they're eating, or the food is affecting them negatively, and the child is not aware or the parent is not aware. These two examples, so I want to bring it to real life examples. These two examples are coming from the book. So I'm just going to read directly off the slide so that, we can analyze and break down. So Craig, 15, vandalized his home several times and committed numerous petty crimes. He was a bully and was virtually impossible to teach, and his 8-year-old brother was beginning to follow in his footsteps. Both were on a special diet, cutting out fizzy drinks and sweets, including more green vegetables and fresh fruit. Within months, says their mother, both were more pleasant and easier to deal with, but Craig has since quit the diet and has reoffended. The bullying and the violence have started again. So I feel like this ties directly into what I was just saying. Switching over a diet for children in these fundamental ages can affect them very positively by cutting out food that would negatively impact them. It would positively impact their behavior. It also shows that in youth, they could be more prone to criminal behavior due to the diets that they are on. The second um, quote that I got from the book was Graham, an 11-year-old, turned from an uncontrollable delinquent into a normal, pleasant boy when pizzas, baked beans, and chocolate in his diet were replaced by fresh vegetables, coconut milk, and carrots. He became less aggressive and argumentative and reportedly was happy for the first time in his life. Graham's schoolwork improved and he began to make friends. So this goes into basically the direct opposite of the first example. Choosing to stick to the diet actually helped Graham to be able to turn his behavior around and to be able to focus on what he needs to focus on. And I feel like this directly correlates to how diet can affect positive behavior changes. A quote that I got from the Library of Medicine is that regarding healthy neurodevelopment, research has supported a number of areas to target. Poor nutrition, both in utero and early childhood, has been associated with negative and criminal outcomes. Deficits of omega 3 fatty acids have been linked with impaired neurocognition and externalizing behavior. So basically, I feel like this also goes back to childhood and goes back to utero, like the quote is saying, that it depends on how the child is being brought up. It depends on how the child is um, being given these nutrients and food. It can affect them as early as before they're born, as early as infancy, um, as to how nutrition can affect their neurodivergence, it can affect their behavior, it can affect many, many things that can lead them down a road to criminal behavior because they were stunted at the beginning of their age by mineral and nutrition deficiency. So now I'm going to transition into how these lack of food and minerals can affect an adulthood, how it is proven and seen in adulthood that adults are suffering because of the lack of vitamins and minerals that they receive growing up, and how it is seen in the judicial system today. So, pulling out from this quote that I have, low intake of vitamins and minerals was correlated with higher incidence of violence and antisocial behavior in juvenile and adult correctional facilities for males. So, as you can see, there are many, many different states that are highlighted here: California, Virginia, Oklahoma, Florida, New York. And in all these states, you're seeing that it's happening in all of them. So, it is not just cornered in a particular state or a particular region, but it's happening all over the world. And it says at the end of the quote that residents who selected diets that were far below the RDAs for 5 or more nutrients were more likely to be involved in rule violations. So most of these people who were involved in juvenile crime or adult crime noted that they were completely left out from having these nutrients, whether in childhood or getting into adulthood. But with it saying behavior in juveniles, this started in childhood and became a pattern. They all show signs of significant mineral deficiency, and these mineral deficiencies correlated with them having incidences of violence because of their deficiencies. So this right here is a snapshot from the Department of Justice. And they were doing statistics on people who are currently in prison, in state and federal prisons. So as you can see, there's a very, very high bar rate for people who have ever had chronic conditions. So as reported here, chronic conditions could have been gout or things that are mostly done onset by unhealthy diets, and then right under it, high blood pressure, which is onset by stress and unhealthy diets. So a lot of these people who are in prison are have been noted to have upbringings that were already unsafe, unhealthy, and because of the nutrition and mineral deficiencies, a lot of them turned into lives of high blood pressure or had a lot of chronic conditions that affected their criminal behavior. This is another quote from the US Department of Justice. So, orthomolecular practitioners have claimed that this type of behavior is affected by vitamin dependency, hypersensitivity, or allergy to food and toxic substances. So, basically, this goes back to the first quote that I was saying about children and behavioral issues. A lot of children are affected by behavioral issues due to the allergy to foodstuffs or hypersensitivity or vitamin dependency. So once they are introduced to fatty foods or salt or sweets, they could create a dependency to those foods, but those foods could also be negatively affecting them to the point to where it's affecting their behavior and they're unable to progress successfully in society because of their dependency on these things that are negatively affecting them. And this is how I connected it to social disorganization theory. So, social disorganization theory is the theory that basically, because of the socioeconomic surroundings, or because of the cultural surroundings, it causes people to somewhat have an inability to be able to succeed in this because of the social groups that they're around. So I'm going to pull from this quote. Social groups are more likely to experience food insecurity and reside in food desert neighborhoods. Households lacking wealth and experiencing hardship generally make poor dietary choices and consume less than recommended levels of nutrient rich food. So basically, because these children are being raised in low income households or households that do not have accessibility to good food choices, they are more likely to consume less nutrient foods, which will in turn cause them to be able to have behavioral issues because of their surroundings. So, because of the social disorganization in their surroundings, they are more likely to consume less nutrient foods, and um, it'll be higher and dense in sugar and fat, um, instead of fresh fruits and vegetables. And I also feel like this is notable because I've also noticed in a lot of neighborhoods that are lower income, you don't see Whole Foods, you don't see Harris Teeters, you don't see things that would allow kids to be able to access high nutrient foods. And these are all my sources. So, in closing, I would just like to note that I do feel like youth are, based on the evidence provided, that youth are negatively impacted by the diets that are given to them growing up. And I feel like this can lead to criminal behavior in the long term based on mineral and nutrient deficiency. Thank you.